Should I just share it on my timeline? I'm cool with that. So,
yeah, and and then I'll just
yeah, let's do
share.
that.
I'll share it to the group that we have.
Go ahead and share it to like,
We should start 6.
go ahead, let me win. Let's roll. All right.
Welcome, Anton.
Hi, everybody.
Anton, how you doing, man?
How are you? We love to see your face if you're not driving.
Is it you and Summer or just you today?
It's just me today.
Awesome. We got the better half. What? Don't tell her that.
I won't pass it along.
I hear you there.
Hi, Troy. Are you in America right now?
What a
I
question.
am. Yeah, I'm in Seattle.
Oh, nice.
It's not entirely safe to go back to Myanmar right now.
Okay.
Oh, no, yeah.
Well, we're happy to have you. Casey, KCJ, Adrian.
Taylor, what's up, man?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Hey, congrats on the, was it fourplex, right?
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's closed yet?
We just closed last week.
Oh, congrats.
Closed last week, got our first lease extension today.
I'm guessing if you closed last week, your rates were still pretty good, so.
Yeah, good enough.
Good enough. Well,
Yeah.
we'll go over a lot of that today too. So.
Yeah.
Welcome, Penise. I'm glad you're able to make it.
Thank you so much for pinging me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes.
Welcome.
Perfect. And if you guys are at home and not driving and everything, we would love to see your faces and make this fun and interactive. Always good to see your face, Eric.
And congrats as well. Did you and Marianne like have a competition of who can close first or something like that? I swear.
Well, she's closing. She closed first. Mine is not happening till tomorrow.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh, here she is right here. She's joining right now too.
Oh, great.
Well, you got to come over on Sunday. We're having a barbecue.
I
And
know. I want to. I'm gonna try.
there's
Bring
no
the kids.
try.
Bring the kids.
Just do.
Yeah, because Marianne has a meeting early Monday. So if I can find a place to stay in the Bay Area on Sunday, I will be there.
Yeah, Jason's coming up. We have an empty house, so
Yeah,
we
you can
just
stay there.
bring
Yeah.
sheets because we don't have bed
Okay.
sheets. If you want,
Okay.
bring bed sheets. You can stay with Ray and Jason.
Oh,
Have
cool.
the exclusive first look before we go on Airbnb.
Yeah, you can
Slash,
test.
tell us what we need to fix before we go live.
Okay. No, that works. Then yeah, I should be good to go then.
Yeah, Edwin's coming too. That's what I heard.
Oh, cool.
I'm a try.
What did Jennie just say?
There's
Yeah,
no try.
That's right.
When you say I'm trying, means they're not going to do it. So
Right.
it's all about real estate investing too. Just gotta do it. Well, awesome. Great to see some new faces and everything too.
We like to banter, guys. So sorry about that.
We're just waiting for a few more minutes before people get on. And we're going to go over a lot of fun things, some numbers as well too, but dive in. We want to make this interactive and fun. Put on your cameras, ask questions either in the chat or raise your hand. We like to hear the questions live as well.
So while we're waiting, sorry, I can't make it on Sunday. I have a 6 a.m. meeting starting on Monday. So I can't, I don't want to rush Eric because if I say, let's go home, like he's gonna get mad at me. So I'll just send Eric for our representative. Say hi to everybody for me. I can't believe I'm gonna miss it.
Okay.
Cameron, you got to make it on Sunday, man.
It's a Zoom thing, yeah.
Oh, Cam, can you hear me, bud?
What's happening on Sunday?
Come on over, dude. We're having a little barbecue.
Oh, the hot tub?
And the hot tub, dude.
Oh.
And the putting green. I don't know how your golf game is looking right now, but
You know what? The only part of my golf game is the mini golf game. And so putting greens are my thing.
Wow.
I'll bring my putter then.
Big talk, big talk. All right. We'll love to hear.
Oh, Ray, I see you. Ray, I'm sorry I can't make it. I wish I could see you, but hi.
Hi, no worries. Be there in spirit.
So.
Well, she's sending her better half, Ray.
Whatever.
Hi,
Awesome.
Kayleen. Hello, San Diego life down there.
Oh
I
yeah.
know it's 90 degrees today.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a beach day right there.
I know.
Perfect. Well, we're 5 minutes in. I know we're doing a little bantering, but we're gonna just go ahead and get started. And if you guys can put your cameras on, we'd love to see your faces.
Cool. Well, we'll do some intros. As always, we'll go a little ladies first.
Hello, so I'm Jennie Locke and my husband here is Calvin. We just got married legally last year for tax purposes because of cost segregation, accelerated depreciation, all this fun real estate stuff so that we can save on taxes. And that's another topic that we'll go over in the future. But I'm a real estate agent here, investor in the Bay Area, was formerly in tech. We met at Oracle at the gym and was a 30 under 30 realtor, National Association of Realtors, sold over 300 plus units of real estate in the last couple of years and founded Zen Coast Homes and also co-founded Zen Coast University with Calvin. And we've been doing all different types of investing in real estate, from first house hacking with single families, doing BRRRRs, which is buying, renovating, renting it out and refinancing it and pulling all of our money out. We just did a BRRRR in the Bay Area. If you saw my story, bought something for $650, put $350 in, and then got appraised at 1.465 million. So pulled $1,025,000 out. So all the cash out still have equity. And that's the house that we're gonna take a tour on Sunday. If you're in the Bay Area, would love to meet you guys in person. And we're gonna do a hot tub party and putting green barbecue at our house afterwards. And we also invest in a lot of apartment complexes around the country. So from Kansas City, Texas, Alabama, Utah, New Mexico, and Tennessee. We have properties all around the country. And a recent goal I was able to accomplish was able to retire my parents. So they are immigrants from China, came from the 80s. They were 18, 20 years old, still don't speak English well, but they work in a clothing factory for over 45 years and a lot of manual laborious work. 14-hour days, 7 days a week. So my goal is to retire them. So they're selling their shop and moving out here to the Bay Area, and excited to just have them and cook good food because I'm not the best cook.
I'm not laughing at you, babe. I swear. Well, thanks, Jennie. And yeah, I mean, just to, who said chivalry was that? I thought we were getting married for love, but I guess for tax purposes, I guess too, that's fine. Yeah, guys, so, Calvin Shin here. I know a lot of you guys. If not, then very nice meeting you guys. I think much like a lot of people here, I worked in corporate for a lot of years, right? And I thought that's what we were supposed to do, right? To be happy and successful. And, turned out it's hard to be happy when you're sitting on a laptop for 12 hours a day. So found real estate as a way to buy back time and energy, away from forecast calls and TPS reports and blah, 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 all that stuff. But really made a lot of mistakes along the way and eventually figured it out, was able to scale our real estate portfolio from 0 to over 170 doors and personal portfolio of over 25 million, and just really found a passion in helping people, right, along that journey, not so that they can just not make the same mistakes that we did, right? And, we started Zen Coast University, Jennie and I, to help coach people, and started Zen Coast Capital as a way to help people invest, as a way to teach and to give opportunities that aren't really typically reserved for people like us, right? And I'm an amateur Peloton rider as well. During the pandemic, Jennie made me buy a Peloton, and now I kind of just casually ride it around. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right, guys. Well, you guys didn't come here to talk to hear us talk about our Peloton stats and whatnot. You guys are here because you guys want to know what is the state of the market, right? So here's our agenda today. We're going to go over what that entails, the state of the market, how it affects real estate, what are the strategies, and then we'll reserve some time at the end for some Q&A. But like Jenny said earlier, we're going to be really heavy today in the charts, in the data, right? If you're into that stuff like I am, then it's going to be fun. If you don't like that, well, I heard there's a new season of Stranger Things out, so maybe that's a good alternative for you guys. But today, it's going to be purely educational, right? There's been a lot of, we'll call it news out there right now. And what we really want to do is just peel that back and really go over what the facts are, what the data is, right? And everyone here, you guys are all in a different position in life. Y'all all have different risk tolerances. You all have different things that you guys want to achieve. So what I want to do is I want to use that data so that you can go ahead and make your own data-driven decisions on your life, right? And obviously we'll also share what we are seeing as well, what we're doing in our strategies. And I know it's going to be heavy with a lot of numbers and stuff. Some of you guys, it might be feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. Some of you guys maybe just takes the data and freaking runs with it. Some of you guys will have more questions and want some more support. So before we wrap up, we'll share with you how you guys can get some additional support as well. All right, so let's start off with a little bit of a quote, right? And bonus points if you know who this quote's from. But decades go by sometimes when nothing happens, and then there are weeks when decades happen. And I love that quote. It hits me hard because that's what it's felt like, at least in the past 2 months, ever since their first rate hike. I mean, things have just started to change so fast and it's taken off. I don't know if you guys have felt that, but I have, right? And what that means, guys, it just means that, hey, we have to continue to adapt and learn. We have to change with the times. Because the people who don't, they get left behind. And so, it's going to be moving. Real estate isn't what it was 2 years ago. It wasn't the same 2 months ago. So really, we're going to use the data today to start to forecast and be proactive on, what your strategy is going to be moving forward. So I'm excited, guys. So what is happening? Have you guys heard the news? I don't know. I've heard a bunch of news out there, but what's happening with stocks, right? Crypto, right? And the media out there is just blowing all this up. Like, you see on my, Apple News that comes on my iPhone, like there's articles everywhere that is saying like, crypto millions lost, people are losing their whole stock portfolio, media, saying the R word, right? What the R word is recession, right? Everyone's talking about it. And so it's causing this massive panic. Everyone's, oh my God, I should sell. I should not do anything. I'm gonna peel back everything, right? And I always start to think back, and I initially had that same reaction too. But you think about like, the old Warren Buffett quote, right? Where he says, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy, right? And right now, it's definitely a time of fear that I hear a lot right now. So we'll go over the state of the market. So really 3 big main things that we're going to go through, right? We're going to go through 1, inflation. 2, this little thing called interest rates that has been blown up on everyone's news. And then 3, we're going to talk about supply in real estate as well. All right, so let's just jump into it, guys. It's going to be a lot of stuff. So I want to make sure we get through all of it. So number 1 is this inflation trend. Anyone heard of this thing called inflation at all in the last couple years? Yeah, should be everyone. It's been everywhere you go, right? So here's a stat, right? So the U.S. Department of Labor report here from April of 2022 basically shows, what inflation is. So as you can see, right, it shows a huge increase in what is called the Consumer Price Index, aka inflation, from April 2021 to now, right? So what it was in April 2021 was 4%, right? Now it's 8%, 8+%, right? So it's freaking double in a year. And I know you guys have heard of this in the past year, and if you haven't, here's the actual data on it. But what does this actually mean? Well, just the most basic answer I can give is stuff is just getting more expensive, right? You go to the gas station. I was just seeing, a friend of mine went to Chipotle and it was like, man, burritos got more expensive. And when burritos get more expensive, then you know something's up, right? So, why is that happening? Well, a couple of reasons. 1, shortages, supply chain issues. You look out in Long Beach, Caitlin, I know you're in SoCal, you probably see the Long Beach port. There are a bunch of ships out there just circling around. I see it in the Bay Area here too, in ports. Like there's just a bunch of container ships around the Bay, just hanging out, right? We're having supply chain issues. There's World War III, right? What else? Well, and what else is that the government printed over 40% of the current money supply this past year, right? So simple supply and demand. Okay, when there's more of something, what it does is it devalues it. So because there's more money in the supply right now, it's devaluing what the worth of that money is, right? So just like back in the day, and well, I feel like I sound so old. Like back in my day, it wasn't that long ago. But back in the day, like I remember you could get like a Honda Odyssey, those minivans, Honda minivans. Like you can get those easily, right? And you can negotiate. I know my parents had a Toyota Sienna back in the day, and you would negotiate down from MSRP. Nowadays, you can't even get a freaking Sienna or a Honda Odyssey. You gotta like negotiate, pull some strings. It's gotta be like your father's, mother's, uncle's dog sitter to even have that connection to get one now. And so, obviously less it is, and the more expensive it is. And you can even see Honda Odysseys going above MSRP right now, right? So that's what inflation really means. But let's peel that back even deeper, right? So, you see the articles, I see the headlines all the time. Inflation's hit 8%. Oh my God, that's crazy. Well, let's unpack that. Because what people don't really talk about enough is that not everything is going up 8%, right? It's the blended average. A CPI average of 8% is all goods, cars, food, milk, eggs, men's underwear, everything, Twinkies, right? And they blend it all together and average out, and 8% is that average. But let's dive deeper into, okay, well, what are the goods and things that are actually going up more than others, right? So I know most of all of you guys have been affected in some capacity. And, I love, before you guys jump in, I love just hearing obscure stories. So, let me know, like the Chipotle story, like who has seen some stuff go up in price that, is so unique and so different. But here are the things that I think are really actually good data points to say, hey, what is going up, right? So the essentials, like things like food, butter, huge 21% jump. Citrus fruits like oranges and stuff, 18% jump. Milk, 15% jump year over year. Gas, everyone knows that one, 44%. We live in California too. I think I saw one for like $8.20 a gallon. I was like, holy crap, that's nuts. And then there's non-essential stuff, right? So non-essential stuff like TVs, it only went up 5.8%. Jewelry only went up 0.5%. Hotels and motels up 21%, right? So again, I think it's important just to understand like the trends of what is actually going up and what is not, right? And, I can go down a whole list. I put the link in here as well if you guys ever want to look at like everything. They have everything from like freaking like men's underwears to, everything that you think about and what the price was from a year ago. So what does that mean, right? Well, it means that people are getting squeezed, right? Saving rates are down. People have to dip in their savings to pay for stuff. And at the end of the day, what I find really interesting is who does this affect, right? Who does this affect the most? And I think it's interesting because who gets affected the most are the lower and the middle class, or the people that nationwide maybe 50K a year, in California maybe make 100K a year. They're affected the most because if you think about it, let's say 100K a year, right? That's an average, we'll call it, I think medium in San Francisco. 8.3K a month is what that equates to, right? So after taxes, that's about 5.4K, right? That's what we call a fixed income, right? So let's say if you had that after taxes, you're making 5.4K, you were spending, we'll call it $2,200 bucks. We'll call it half that on your essentials, right? Your food, your gas, your rent, your utilities, all that stuff. Well, nowadays, because all that stuff's going up and your income is fixed, right? Your income's not going up, but your expenses are going up. You have less savings, right? So now people are dipping into their savings account more and more and more, right? So that's happening across the nation more and more and more. And what that means is that, yeah, the average person is not going to be able to afford to buy because they're dipping their savings, plus interest rates, which we'll get to interest rates here in a second. But what's that going to affect, right? What's that going to have? What do they have to do at that point? Well, they're going to have to continue to rent because you're basically already dipping into your savings account, right? So here, here's kind of what's happening, and it has been happening for not just this last 2 months, but for many years now. Is this huge transfer of wealth, right? But again, like it's been going on for the last few years, but even right now, it's becoming more exaggerated in today's market. And what's happening is that the transfer of wealth is going from the renters to the landlords, right? And the US is becoming what's called this renter nation. And what that means is, yeah, the renter nation is, yeah, you're on a fixed income. There's inflation of essential goods, which is dipping in your savings account. By dipping in your savings account, you're not able to afford a down payment, right? And you're forced to rent more. And now there's more demand for rentals. rents are going up, property values will strong or go up because more demand for people renting it, makes it more affordable for investors to be able to buy property and actually rent it out and cash flow a little more. So the question is, hey, what side are you on? And if you're not on the side that you want to be, hey, what side do you want to be on? I know what side I want to be on, but it's always a question out there too, is, hey, what side do you guys want to be on too? And so in these inflationary periods, what kind of assets you want to be in, right? And, for the most part, the government doesn't want any part of inflation. They definitely don't want inflation of essential goods, right? But they do want hard assets to go up still, right? So the common misconception is, government wants to limit, the amount that my house is worth. No, they want that to go up too, right? But what they don't want is essential goods and stuff, food, gas, all stuff to go up with it, because that affects everyone, right? So, what should you go in? Hard assets versus paper assets. Hard assets meaning things like gold, things like real estate, things are physical. Paper assets, there's like stocks, cryptocurrency, they don't perform as well in times of inflationary periods. So when you go back to just simple economics, right, of supply and demand, right? And I remember learning about supply and demand in college, and my friends used to make fun of me all the time because that's all I did was like talk about supply and demand. But now it's so relevant in life, right? Because now that there's more supply and money, there's a lot of it, it makes hard assets more valuable because it devalues the dollar. When there's a devalued dollar, what that means is it just takes more to buy that same asset. So thus, hard assets go up in value. Not even by like value adding and by doing any kind of construction or anything like that, but just because simply there's just more money in the money supply and it's devaluing. And that's it. And I'll go over some numbers here in a second here, but just want to take a break. Jennie, do you want to add anything to the whole inflationary period side?
I mentioned in the chat, but sriracha is not even making sriracha anymore. And it's, we're seeing a lot of just like delays in shipment and it's affecting our food supply. I know you love sriracha, so.
Michael, I love that one. Dollar Tree, no longer be called Dollar Tree. It should be called the $1.25 tree.
And just to iterate, I put in the chat, but BlackRock, we're seeing like a lot of companies like JP Morgan, all these other companies are trying to buy up a lot of properties across the nation. And we've even gotten unsolicited offers on our properties from these large corporations, and they are buying up for the long term. And we're going to turn back more into a landlord state. So it's like landlord nation. So it's like for us to like be able to get a piece of that pie, or else everyone else is going to own, or these large conglomerates are going to own everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, they're obviously, there are a lot of smart guys in BlackRock and whatnot. And, their strategy is, hey, they see runway in real estate, and they're buying it and gobbling everything up. And I know I talked to real estate agents across the nation. They're like, yeah, they'll buy anything 20% above, right? They don't care. Right? It doesn't even need a cash flow. They'll just buy it, right? Because they understand that, there's not a lot of supply in houses right now. And we'll show that with some data here too. All right. So what is this whole, what is Calvin talking about? What does this actually mean for real estate? Right? Get to it, guy. So, what this is, guys, is it's a hedge against inflation, right? When you want to hedge against inflation, you want to buy hard assets, right? So to be able to hedge against inflation, even at a 5% interest rate, right? You should leverage, right? Leverage even at a 5% interest rate, because that 5% interest rate is going to feel like 4% next year and 3% next year because of the devalue of the dollar, right? So like that former slide I just talked about, hard assets appreciate during inflationary times. Right now too, I mean, I've heard this a lot on some podcasts too. It's like, oh, people are like, oh, no, don't worry. Like, government will just print more money our way out of a recession. And so, I've heard a lot of this online, and to be honest, this is something that I don't believe, right? Right now, like, I think that they used to have that button, that printing machine button all the time, but they've printed so much money now that there's just too much. And that's what's, causing this inflation too. So this time around, like, I don't actually think they're actually going to print more money, because it's going to cause the same thing to happen, right? More inflation. That's what they're trying to curb with higher interest rates. I'm not going to say they can't, but they shouldn't, at least, right? I don't run the government, but the government, they're seriously worried about inflation. They basically use that trick in the last two recessions, we'll call it 2020 and 2009, right, to print their way out of bad times, and now that's starting to come back to them. But this time around, they didn't have inflation at 8%, and if they turn that back on, what happens, right? Supply of money goes back up, right? And as a real estate investor, I'd love that, right? Because it's going to make my real estate worth more again. But it's gonna continue to drive up goods too. But and why they're trying to do all this stuff too, interest rates, inflation, and trying to create demand destruction, right? And we've seen this already, where listings are on market more. There's more listings in general, right? Because people are scared. They're like, oh my God, interest rates are going up, and they're going to keep on going up. So I'm actually going to peel back. So they're out of bullets. So what's left for them to do, right? Well, what's left for them to do is just basically threaten with massive rates increases, right? It's the only trick they have left. They put that in the media to tell people that are keep on raising rates like crazy because they want people to stop buying, right? To be honest, because they're like, it just can't go up more. It's going to be unaffordable. We're having an affordability crisis as is. So I always say, hey guys, instead of thinking like a sheep and going in with a herd, like think about this. Let's flip that mindset from panic to, all right, well, is there less competition out right now? Yeah, there is. This is the least competition I've seen in years. Where brokers are even just sending me unsolicited LOIs. They're like, hey, Calvin, I think this would be a great property for you. It's a good price. You want to do it, right? And so buy for that long term. Like, why not? I mean, in a 10-year period, you're going to be fine no matter what, right? Especially in inflationary times, your property is going to be worth more. You can see that over here with this decade by decade median home value chart, right? This is what inflation does, guys. I mean, you can look at over here, you can see, every decade, the starting point of a median home value and what it is at the end of the decade. So 1940 to 1949 went from, it's just crazy to even see these numbers in the 40s that you can buy a house for $3,000. Like, that's crazy. It's like not even close to, you can't even buy a house at closing costs. You can't even closing costs for that money nowadays. But anyways, it went from $3,000 to $7,000, right? In the 50s, it went from $7,300 to an average of $12K. In the 60s, about $12K to $23K. In the 70s, $23K to $64K. In the 80s, $64 to $124, right? So again, like every decade, as you can see, the ending median value has gone up in real estate. Even when there's, recessions, and you can see it here in this chart, all the gray areas here, that's times of recession. Now, yeah, does it go down during a recession? Yeah, it probably does, right? But if you look at the decades, they always end up more. So if you're buying for the long run, right, then you're going to know that you're going to be making money at the end of the day, right? So looking at just these stats. Now, one caveat that I will say, right, is that it's say home prices go up 10%, right? But inflation's 8%. Truly, your only return there is actually 2%, right? Because 8% is eating away from inflation. Now, it doesn't sound as sexy anymore, but the alternative is you have cash and inflation just eats you away at 8%. So what's your alternative, right? So then at that point, if you just stay in cash or whatever, and you let inflation just eat away at it, 8%, then you've lost 8% of buying power. Versus, hey, at least my property is depreciating at 10%. And yeah, maybe that 8% takes away some of that value of what it is, but at least I'm still netting, I'm still gaining more. So the game is, hey, just continue to start to beat inflation. Beat inflation, beat inflation, beat inflation. So I know I've talked a lot in the beginning here, and I just want to get some takeaways because I just dumped a lot of data on you guys. So yeah, let's open it up. Let's get 2 takeaways from 2 brave souls. Rose, Jennie will call on you. And you go on mute too.
I just want to say, first of all, this information is incredibly valuable and important to have it all in one place. You can hear the background noise. I'm in the middle of something else. And I'm trying to like focus and listen. And so I was wondering if you're recording this. I apologize.
We are recording this. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And appreciate you jumping on, even though it sounds like you got some stuff going on in the background there too. So appreciate you jumping on anyways.
Make sure that you put your email. You can directly message it to me so that we can, or just put it in the chat so that we can make sure you get the recording.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, Shannon.
Hi. I think my a quick takeaway is just like how profound I haven't been taking this. Like, this data is all normal information to me, but like just kind of putting it together in the bigger picture of like go grab that property now is a huge takeaway for me. Huge. Because I'm just sitting back being busy all the time and not making it a priority, right? So I gotta change that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Ryan, let's get one more for Ryan.
Yeah, like Shannon was saying, I think that there's definitely just a lot of opportunity here. I mean, you could either sit back and let others just reap the reward of taking advantage of these times, or you can actually educate yourself through platforms like yours and just take action. I mean, through every level of adversity, there's this golden nugget, you know, and we're just trying to find that golden nugget through these times.
Yeah, 100. I love what you said there too, just the action aspect of it. I think a lot of people just kind of get scared. They get that fear. They hear what's happening. Their neighbors or Uber drivers are saying, "Oh my God, we're going to hell again," right? And then everyone freaks out, right? But then, you know, like you said, Ryan, like educate yourself. Just look, right? Make the decisions for yourself, because hey guys, like everyone on here is smart enough to make a lot of money in these times. So yeah, and you know, that's what this is here for. So appreciate that, Ryan.
Denise, love to hear from you.
Yeah, I just love how you are taking the consumer reports, and just the storyline just makes so much sense, because when you are just watching the headlines, the news headlines, the first thing is inflation, and then there is rise of interest rates. And when you put the two together, it's just disaster for both buyers and sellers. And I feel like the storyline makes so much sense, because in a way we're saying, if you are still renting, the interest rate on renting is 100%. It's not 5%. It's not 6%. It's 100% interest. You're not making anything. You're just wasting your dollar. And on the other side of it is, if you're not investing enough of your hard-earned, money into real estate, then again, your money is not growing at the rate that it's going to recover from the inflation that we are seeing increase in this country. And as somebody that comes from Iran, inflation in Iran has been on the rise for the past 11 years, and it is at a point that it's close to 45% inflation. And if you're not a property owner, if you're not a landlord, you are completely screwed, and you are completely at the bottom of the society. And that's not to say that the US will ever get close to that disaster, but I've seen it in real life. And the storyline that you're showing with data, it's just incredible. I'm definitely going to go back to it, listen to it, and use it for my buyers, because it's super important for them to know why they need to buy property.
Yeah. Wow. 45%. That is absolutely insane. Now, I don't think it'll be that high. Hopefully not, knock on wood, but it shows a lesson there for sure, right? The people, and that's where that big wealth transfer comes from, right? Is when things go to, let's say 45%, the people who own assets are happy, and the people who don't are not very happy at all. So I love that news. All right, Eric, man, what were you?
Yeah. So just two thoughts, right? So when you're talking about the fear that's out there, right? I have Jennie's voice in my head, always repeating, fear is the thing that gets smaller as you get closer to it, right? And so I've actually kind of, through the couple of deals that were in the process of closing, or one close, I had to keep that in mind, because one of the deals, and I'll share this with you later, is we actually didn't use a realtor. But so I was like, okay, just, tap into that, and yeah. So I can hear Jennie's voice in the back about fear. The second thought is, when you said there's less competition out there, and in the markets we're looking at in Indy and in Texas, in the Houston area, the MLS listings are changing a lot. Before, we would see option pending, like quickly, right after it lists. Now we're seeing a lot of price decreased.
Yeah.
And that's in both markets. And so I think that kind of parallels what you're talking about, that there's less competition because the interest rates are going up and it's getting more expensive to buy. So I just wanted to share those two thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, 100%. 1 out of 5 listings nationwide right now have dropped price, a reduced price on their listing. Whereas, 2 months ago, you couldn't you wouldn't even sell the house at list price. It'd be, 20% above list, right? So good share there. And Amit, is that how you pronounce Amit?
Yeah, Amit.
Yeah.
Thanks for the detailed explanation of inflation and housing and everything. I think that's the biggest takeaway. I think my biggest challenge is pulling the trigger. Thinking about it for a long time, what to do with our rental in Bay Area, and then whether to diversify into other markets. Other states. I think that's the biggest challenge, and that's always that when you want to buy your first home, you always think like 100 times, oh, am I doing the right decision? And if after you buy, you think about your mortgage and monthly payments. I guess it is the same. I guess it is the same thing when you want to do something which is not close to your eyes. In the same locality, or maybe that's the fear factor still. Maybe I think will go away once we do it. So looking forward to pulling the trigger, basically.
100%, Amit. And I can tell you on this call, there are a lot of people who had that same fear. Hell, I was one of those people too. My first out-of-state deal, you can ask Jennie this. I was like, cool. Like, I love the concept of real estate, makes sense. I'm gonna go do it, right? Got an offer, accepted. And I was like, oh my God, holy crap, I'm doing this. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my house. I'm gonna lose everything. I'm gonna, I'm freaking out, right? And one of those things is once you just take action, like right? It's just that initial fear of what can go wrong, right? Will come in your mind. But if you surround yourself with the right people, you have the right knowledge and stress tested enough to look at actual data, like we're doing today, like look at actual data, and have the right people around you to catch you if you fall, then there's really nothing to fear, right?
Yeah.
And so we could talk about that in a longer conversation, and I can talk about that for a whole hour for sure. But
sure, yeah, I think that's the next step, I guess. Where and when and how?
$1 million question for sure. And I mean, let's book a time separately, and we'll go over what we can help you up there.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Marianne, round us out, and then we're gonna keep on going.
And I wanted to just share our story in terms of that fear. I think if you're not part of ZCU yet, they're going to help you through that, because like Calvin said, if you surround yourself with the proper team, and you'll learn that from ZCU, and it's there, but you will conquer it because they'll teach you how to. So and it feels so good once you've conquered it and you're in it, and you have this magic feeling of I did it. And thank you to ZCU for teaching us how to do that.
Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Marianne. Appreciate it. All right, guys. So like Puneet said too, hey, inflation, interest rates, right? That's that second big domino, guys, that we're gonna be talking about. Again, headlines, right? I love Puneet. You kind of set me up perfectly for everything here. It was like, yeah, you look at the headlines, and literally I just Googled mortgage rates, and this is what came up, right? Mortgage demand hits 22 years low as interest rates rise. Is this the end of low interest rates, right? So all this like fear. And what are they doing? People, this whole concept is, it's going like Elon Musk, it's going to the moon, it's going to Mars, right? And so again, all right, cool. Let's take a breath, guys. Whew. Let's look at the data. All right, let's look at it. So what's happening right now? Yes. So interest rates have been going up and are going up, right? Are they going to continue to go up? Well, they're probably not stopping anytime soon, right? They're meeting again in June. They're meeting again in July. So 2 more times at least, right? And they're going to continue to threaten that, right? To get that idea out there that says, hey guys, don't buy, we're raising interest rates and raising interest rates. And so, the argument that can be made when interest rates are lower than inflation, right, is that it'll have trouble slowing the economy. Now think about this, guys. We're interest rates are around 5%. Inflation's at 8%, right? You're still gonna get a loan on that because it's still less than inflation, right? So that's why there's a lot of talk out there that says like, man, interest rates. There's whispers out there that maybe that they need to raise interest rates above inflation, right, to slow the economy down, because again, you're still making money on leveraging. So I know that's scary. So before everyone's heart drops and we start panicking again, right? Let's just dissect it as a squad here, as a family, right? So, and again, here's a little chart here that shows, where we're at right now. We're Q2 right now, 5.1. So they do expect it to continue to rise. But what's actually happening? Well, mortgage rates, mortgage applications are down. There are huge job cuts in the mortgage industry because of that. There is a increase in people getting adjustable rate mortgages, which are like 7-year ARMs, 10-year ARMs, things like that, right? Rates are rising on floating debt. So think about things like credit card debt, that's going up, guys. So if you guys have a lot of credit card debt out there, good time to pay that off, right? Because not only are you gonna get hit with inflation, but you're gonna have a higher rate on interest on your credit card debt too. Also less money movement, right? A lot of people that had 2.5% rates, 3% rates, they're not going to refinance, right? They're not going to touch it. They're not going to sell, right? Because their money is in a 2.5% rate. Like that's free money, right? So a lot of trapped equity. But what that is causing, again, guys, is what we call an affordability crisis, right? It's making it so hard to afford to live and to buy a house, right? It makes the demand for houses lower, right? So again, less offers, higher days on market, higher inventory, demand's down, supply's up, right? It is stabilizing home prices, but the thing is, it's still unaffordable for many because of the monthly payments now are a lot higher, right? So I want to repeat that, guys. It's still unaffordable for many because now the monthly rates are higher. The monthly PITI mortgage is higher. So, and then on the investor side too, profitability with higher interest rates, it makes it harder to profit because now those interest rates are higher, eating away at your profits as well. And again, what that's going to do is cause that rent to go up. And again, guys, rent's not local. Real estate is local. It's not national. So every market's different. I pull from Fred data, that's nationwide. But as you probably know, hey, when there's a lot of people in your market, right? And there's not a lot of homes, right? Affordability is still an issue for a lot of people to buy, right? So again, same thing I was talking about before with inflation. When there's a low supply of homes, which there still is, and we'll get to that next, and it's hard to buy a house, again, it's causing more renters again, right? Because now there's more demand for rentals, rent prices go up. So if your landlord that had stuff before, that's going to continue to rise. And here's again, the Fred data on what median rents are, right? And you see this nice straight line, even in recessions, it kind of tapers off a little bit, but it's a nice linear line of rent goes up in that time. So the question I hear a lot, and I'm sure if you're a real estate agent on this call, you hear this all the time, is should I wait? Should I wait to buy? Well, let's unpack that, right? So first off, guys, money is still really, really cheap, right? Here's a chart that shows the mortgage interest rates in the United States for the last, I think, from like 1970 to now. So we're right here right now, right? And look at where it was over here, right? It's crazy. So if you're on the fence right now, guys, just think about this. Rates were at 20% in the 80s, right? They were at 8% in the early 2000s. So, it may not seem like money is cheap right now, but it still is, right? Comparative, right? 5%, 6%, it's not bad, right? So again, if things are going to continue to go up, like the Fed says they are, it's not a bad time to just get in now while you can. And, if rates change down the road, maybe refinance into a cheaper debt down the road. And it could be a downward spiral as well, where, like I said before, a lot of smart people talking about, will rates continue to rise past inflation, right? To cool down the economy. It's definitely in play, right? So do you want to be there at 5.5% or do you want to be there at 10%, right? So again, rates will continue to go up. There's an affordability crisis, right? So, here's my advice is that as rates continue to go up, it doesn't seem like they're going to be stopping. The Fed needs to cool inflation. And really, this is the only tool they have left is increasing interest rates. And again, interest rates have to be higher than inflation to really make an impact. So, affordability is one of those things that has come up a lot, right? This whole, affordability, not only with goods, right? But also with buying homes, right? Higher interest rates just means that the more it goes up, the less home you can afford. And if you wait too long, you're going to be a part of that renter nation, right? But if you can lock in potentially this lower than historical rate, right? Again, it may not seem that because I know myself included, we all have short-term memory, like, oh my God, 5.5%. Well, again, like 5 years ago, I was happy with 5.5%, which I've gotten on properties for in our Stokes. But that short-term memory of mine is like, oh my God, it's going up like crazy. It's going up so fast. And so if you can lock in this relatively lower than historic rate for the long-term, great. And if we do hit the R word at some point down in the future, then the Fed will lower rates again, so the economy can recover. and that's a good time to refinance as well. But what's caused is that the housing prices will continue to be expensive because of supply, right? And that's the third big domino right now, is just supply of homes. Again, guys, real estate is local, right? So, I'm talking general picture, macro economics here, but the supply of homes obviously plays a big part in all of this, right? What caused a huge run of real estate, in the last 5 years, we'll call it, 10 years, you can call it, was that there just wasn't enough homes out there for the demand. Now, demand obviously will be tempered because of interest rates, but that hasn't changed the amount of homes even available, right? So let's unpack this, guys. I have a graph here from realtor.com for all the active listings out there from 2017 to now, right? So data point number one is that, yes, inventory of homes have increased for the first time since June of 2019, right? So that's the fact, right? Inventory has gone up since June of 2019. Number two data point is that inventory is, or I guess active listings are still down 48.5% compared to May of 2020. So again, guys, in other words, there are still only half as many homes available than there were in May of 2020. So yes, facts is there are more supply, but the other fact of that is that there's still only half the supply of what it was in May of 2020. That was in the pandemic too, like right in the beginning of the pandemic. And even crazier stat is number four, is that it's almost a third of the inventory of what it was in June of 2017. Right? So, what's happening from what I'm seeing at least is that a lot of people are having a short-term memory thing of like, wow, like, oh my God, like headlines of news, it's going up, it's about to explode. But look at it in a bigger picture, the last 5-10 years, like, oh my God, like we're still in a huge supply deficit. Right? So again, guys, like, there's been so much news out there, right? And I really just want to take this time just to show people data, right? Versus just reading the headline article and freaking out, right? And having that knee-jerk reaction, because yes, you see that as a theme a lot for a lot of the data points that we have today, are that yes, things are going up, but are they still historically low from 2017, 2018, 2019? Yeah, they are. So even if demand goes down, which it is going down, supply is still so freaking low. And that's coming up a little more too, right? Which is causing a little bit of a softening, but overall, still a huge deficit. So, okay, cool, Calvin, there's a shortage of homes. Well, simple solutions, why don't we build more? Yeah, that's a great idea. We should go build more, right? But remember that inflation thing that we talked about before? Yeah, that still exists, right? So the cost of building something is still expensive. Labor is hard to find. I remember we were doing renovation on some of our apartment complexes in Kansas City. And I remember I used to pay, it started off like, I think 3 or 4 years ago, it was like $4,500 to turn a unit, laminate floors or LVP floors and all that stuff, right? Paint and all that stuff. And then last year in November, it was about $7,500 to do a turn. I'm starting to do one right now, and it's 14 grand now for that same thing, right? Because material, labor, more expensive, right? So, that's why we haven't built. We just haven't built enough. The U.S. is short 5.24 million homes still, right? And the U.S. Census found that 12.3 million American households were formed in January of 2012 to June of 2021, but just 7 million new single-family homes were built, right? So again, 12 million new households, families were created from 2012 to 2021, and only 7 million homes were created, right? Thus a deficit of 5.24 million homes still, right? And again, hey, people locked in that 2.5% rate, that 3%. I heard someone got a 1.99% rate the other day, and I was, holy crap, I want your banker. But yeah, those people are just not going to sell, right? So, unless something drastically changes here, we're going to be in a supply deficit for a while, right? And that's not changing much. But yeah, days on market, another indicator, right? I want to talk about is days on market. And this is a good early indicator of where the market is going. So yeah, this is interesting. It is rapidly changing. Yes, it is starting to stay on market longer, right? Things aren't going on the market and selling the next day. I know it's crazy, like it sucks that they're not going the day after, but hey, guess what? We're just normalizing what it was years ago, right? Like the average was like 30 days back in the day, right? And the typical home spent 31 days on the market in May, which is almost a full week less than last year, right? And the shortest time in record since 2016. So yes, are days on market going up? Yes. Is it still way lower than averages in the past? Yeah, look at this, guys. Like, we're over here and it's still way lower than it was in even January of 2017. Right. So again, the knee-jerk reaction of the media and headlines coming out is absolutely starting to taper that a little bit. But historically, guys, we're normalizing, guys. We can't have, things, go off every day, 24 hours after. Like there was no way that was sustainable. Right. So what's happening right now, guys, we're just normalizing it back. Right, to what it was, what usual real estate was, 5-6 years ago. And guess what? Even 5-6 years ago, the real estate market was great. So again, what does that mean, right? So that's short-term memory, but for me, I'm short-term. But I remember when I was underwriting deals, I would project out an appreciation of 3% growth back in the day, right? And if I was feeling lucky, I'd say, 5% growth, right? And really juicing my IRR numbers. I've seen so many people bank on these huge appreciation gains these past years, right? They got used to it. And so, here's a chart right here that just shows you kind of the forecast that people are saying, right? So again, we're in Q2 2022, right? And yeah, what's going to happen is going to taper off. Now, the cool thing about real estate is, not the cool thing, but I guess what this all means that, yeah, there's probably a correction coming. But a correction in real estate doesn't mean that prices are going to go down. It just means it's not going to appreciate as fast, right? So yes, people got so used to like, oh my God, I think in Austin, Texas, the tax assessed value doubled. It was 54% like last year from one year to year. That's insane. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like that's not something that's sustainable. That's not something that we should get used to. We all knew that party was going to end at some point, but people are all butthurt about it now. Like, oh man, like I wish I could still happen. But guess what? It just means that a correction is coming. So instead of you getting your 20% appreciation return year over year, maybe it's back down to 6, maybe it's back down to 4, maybe it's back down to 3, but guess what? You're still making money, right? So I just want to kind of throw that out there first. And these are normal levels, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, remember there's more than one way to make money in real estate, right? Appreciation is just one of them, right? You got depreciation for taxes, you have your equity pay down if you're renting it out, and then you have your cash flow too. So I always say, guys, hey, where else are you gonna put your money right now? Real estate is correcting back into normal levels of appreciation, but where else can you put your money right now, especially in an R-word recession that's gonna make money too. So we go to this, should you buy a house, right? And I'm looking at you here too, right? Well, the answer is it depends. Right? Everyone here is in a different situation in life. Everyone here has different risk tolerances, different everything. So I put a super high level, right? Don't take this with a grain of salt. It's my opinion, right? But who shouldn't buy a house? Person who should understands that investing in hard assets are an inflation hedge. 2, you have cash reserves, right? So we say 36 months of cash reserves of what your mortgage is always great to have. 3 is if the property can sustain itself. And you stress test enough that even in a worst case scenario, you're going to be okay with that. All right. And you're going to be survive. Right. So cash flow, guys, cash flow is important. Getting into longer term fixed loans. Right. So even like the 7 to 10 year, ARMs, I think they're okay because that's a long time period, right, to do something, and something will happen in that 10-year period for sure. We're getting into, obviously, if you get a 3-year ARM or 3-year AM, 4-year AMs, I've heard a lot too. In our commercial deals, we're doing a lot of 10-year fixed mortgages, which is pretty long for commercial deals. So we're trying to get in that, right? And we're trying to stay away from those bridge debt, right? That at 2 years, they reassess and they give you a new rate. Like, I don't want to do that. That's a little more risky right now because you don't know where it's going to be in 2 years, right? And just 5th is the person that should buy real estate is they understand that real estate is a long-term investment, right? Like, you go back to our inflation slide where you see every decade, it's worth more. Every decade it's worth more. Every decade is worth more, especially with inflation, right? So that's who should. Who shouldn't buy real estate right now? Well, someone that was already financially tight to buy already, right? If you're like, you're down to your last dollar to buy a property, you probably shouldn't do it, right? Like, that's just simple economics. Recessionary times or not, high interest times or not, you just shouldn't buy real estate in general if you're putting yourself that tight. Two is you don't have the proper cash reserves, right? Like the last thing I want anyone on this call to do is get into real estate, not have enough cash reserves and lose it, right? Three is they think that they buy non-cash flowing deals. They're banking on appreciation. Hey, the principles, the sound principles of real estate is go for cash flow, guys. Like if you get appreciation, that's cherry on top. That's awesome, but don't bank on it. Four, if you're doing a variable loan with the balloon, like I said this before, like 7 to 10 year arms, sure, but if it's like a 2-year or 3-year, right, with an adjustable rate after that, that's just too tight. We don't know where we're going to be in 2-3 years. That maybe we're at 20% interest rates. Who knows? If you're stuck and you're projecting out that you bought a property with a 2-year bridge loan, and the 3rd year it's a variable, it balloons up to whatever the prime is at that point, and you're stuck with your pants down. It's 20% now, and you underwrite it at 5%. Then you're going to be in trouble, right? Can you afford the monthly payments there? So again, shouldn't do that if that's the only way you can make a deal work. And 5 is, who should not? Hey, they want a fast gain. They say, hey, cool, tomorrow I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to make $1 million on real estate tomorrow, right? If that's your strategy, you shouldn't be in real estate in general. Try cryptocurrency. You'll have big swings, you'll have big downswings as well, but that's your fast gain, not real estate, right? So that's who should and that's who shouldn't. I'll share with you guys, we're pretty open book. I mean, here's our strategy, right? So we're still buying deals. We're taking advantage, of course, of the less competition, which has been great. To be honest, it's been great. We have a lot more buying power, like in general, like, you can ask for stuff again. You can ask for, not hard money day one, which is nice. You can ask for an inspection period. You can ask for concessions. You can ask for repairs beforehand. That's pretty cool. For us, buying deals, but we're also making sure it cash flows, right? We're using lower leverage so we can cash flow more. Our cash on cash might be lower. We're just doing that to be safe. Have a lot of equity in there as well. We're doing a lot of creative financing, different kind of terms, right? Making it work for us, making sure that we know all of the available options for us. I said this before too, but having high cash reserves too, just making sure we have 6 months of runway just in case for each property. We're getting out of all of our variable loan bridge debt, right? So we're refinancing a lot of those into long-term fixed loans with no prepayments, right? And that's kind of important. I'll get to that here in a second. We're buying recession-proof assets. So that being, multifamily, industrial, working on a bunch of industrial deals right now, things that we think will be recession resistant, not like a retail center in the middle of the country that has a bunch of mom and pop hairdressers and tattoo artists and crystal shops and whatnot. And then for us, this is even before, the last 2 months, we've always had just a long-term mindset on real estate, right? Like we know that we're long-term buy and hold people, right? Like we're not flipping deals for the most part, we're holding them for the long time. And, for us, we know that, hey, in the 10-year period, and this is a question I always ask myself, is in a 10-year period, will I be happy I bought this? And 95% of the time, I'm like, yes, right? And 95% of the time, you guys will be like, I wish I bought property 10 years ago as well. So that's our strategy, guys. So a couple of case studies we'll go through, right? These are deals that we're doing right now, right? So here's a Burr NB, right? So we bought this one for $199, put $30K of rehab into it. Our Airbnb projections are about $5,200 a month. So our appraised value that we got was $305K. So what we're actually going to do on this one is we're going to do a DSCR loan, right? So a debt service coverage ratio loan on this one. Now, crazy thing is, hey, cool, we're actually getting 7.5%. And everyone on the call is probably like, oh my God, 7%, like, what, you're crazy. But what we're doing on this, being a little creative, right? Could we have gotten a 6% Fannie Freddie investment property loan? Probably could have, right? We're actually going to do this. We're going to do 7.5% interest only on a 40-year amortization schedule, right? And because this deal for me is a cash flow deal, right? Equities, the equity pay down, whatever, it's probably not going to be as much, but this is going to be a good cash flow deal. Like $5,200 a month in Airbnb, and by doing that, I'm going to have more ability to have cash flow because I'm doing interest only and in a longer period amortized. The one caveat we did on this that I asked for, that I paid an extra point for, or half a point for, was having a no prepayment penalty. Right? I want that flexibility, right? So no premium penalty just allows me to be more flexible, so that, hey, if we do enter an R word, later this year or next year, and the Fed does finally decide to lower rates again, and it cools back down, I do want to be able to refinance that into a long-term debt type of situation, like a Fannie Freddie, right? So that gives me that flexibility, but I'm paying for it. Yeah, so yes, I could have gone normal route and got a, 6% Fannie Freddie investment property loan on a 30-year amortization, but this actually made more sense. This actually lowered my payment per month because Spark costs 40 years and it's interest only on 7.5%. And so I always say 3 questions, guys, to ask yourself as you guys continue to do your deals here. So 1 is, do you know your exit strategy? 2 is, where are we at in the cycle, in the market cycle? And 3 is, my loan complement my strategy, right? So for this, it's a cash flow deal for us. Cool. I'm cash flowing this. It's going to be a cash flow Airbnb. That's my exit strategy. 2, market cycle. Yeah, rates are going up right now. They might continue to go up. They might not. I don't want to bank on that. So my number 3 is my loan complement my strategy of cash flow. Yeah, I'm going for all cash flow, interest only, 40-year AM, right? Like that's the strategy I'm trying to do. So does that match? And in this case, it does, right? But you got to ask yourself in your own question, your own deals, am I matching the loan and the terms for the type of deal I'm trying to do as well? All right, so that's our case study numero uno. Case study numero dos is, here's a multifamily. It's a 16 unit that we're going to close on here too. 16 units, $303 per door raise of rents here. We're doing long-term debt on this. So long-term debt in commercial deals, 10-year fix, not a 5 or 7, we're doing 10. That's long-term debt. We have a 4.25% rate on a bank that I work with a lot. We're also doing interest only for the first 18 months so that we can get the extra, I guess, bang for your buck of, raising rents and making sure we can stabilize. And then that goes right into our PITI payment. So there's no reevaluation, which is great. It just goes right into it, right? And but what we are also doing this is we're doing lower leverage, right? We're doing, instead of, I've heard the 90% LTVs, I've heard the 80% LTVs, 10% down, 20% down, of course. We're doing 30%, right? Because we want to make sure that we have enough equity in the deal in case something happens. Plus, that does too, it lowers our loan amount, right? So that we can have more cash flow. Now, that does affect our cash on cash return, right? Percent-wise, because we're putting more capital to get those returns, but it's going to help increase our actual monthly net cash flow per month, right? And so that's what we're going for right now, just to be safe, play a little defense there. But we also know this is a long-term hold, right? We're going to buy this, like my strategy on this, my exit strategy. We go back to those 3 questions: exit strategy, market cycle, and loan. Exit strategy on this, it's a long-term hold, right? I look to hold this to 5 to 10 years, and if I do sell, then I'll probably 1031 exchanges into a bigger property down the road, right? 2, market cycle, again, yeah, going up, sure. Maybe going down, who knows? But is my loan complement my strategy? Yeah, it's a 10-year fixed mortgage, right? That we can continue to cash flow, especially in the first 18 months, and continue to raise rents by that point to be able to get more cash flow when the IO does end. So yeah, it fits it all there. So again, like residential, commercial, whatever it is, guys, like make sure that you're figuring out what loan complements your strategy the best. And if you have questions on loan stuff, we can have another call just on all the different ways and different loan products and strategies that are out there. Whew. All right, Jenny, anything to add there? Not a breath real quick.
Yeah, just some people are asking where our property investments are. And although we live in the Bay Area, we love the Bay Area, but we realize like it's different strategies all around and to diversify our portfolios. So we have Airbnbs here in the Bay Area, our house hacks we have here, but in out of state. And a lot of people have that fear of like, oh, who's your property? The first question everyone asks is like, when you invest out of state, is like, do you have a property manager? Yes, we have property managers. We don't want calls about toilets and stuff. So just get rid of that fear. As I always tell our community, is fear is the only thing that gets smaller as you get closer to it. Everything else gets bigger. Like your phone is bigger when you look at it, right? But fear is the only thing. So being able to overcome the fear, and it's through education and knowledge. The places that we've invested in are in San Antonio, Texas, and Tennessee and Alabama, where we are seeing a lot higher of the cash flow. So it's very exciting stuff. And yeah, excited for Calvin to dive more into some of the next steps.
Yeah. Well, I just want to summarize before we kind of jump into that, guys. So if you guys took anything away from just staring at my face on a Thursday night and Jenny's face as well, these are the 8 points I want to make sure that you guys take away from this. 1 is renter nation, right? The US is becoming more of a renter nation the more and more there is, right? So renter nation is happening as affordability decreases and rent's going to continue to rise. So which side do you guys want to be on? Number two is hard assets are one of the best inflation hedges out there, right? You saw that from the chart I showed, like, property values every decade is up. I think the lowest on there was like 26% from a decade perspective. Three, rates aren't going anywhere. My grammar might not be very good, but rates are going places, right? So get in before it's too late if you have the means. Four is supply is rising. It is rising, but it's way less than what we need in demand wise, right? So we're way at a $5.24 million deficit still. So supply is rising, yes, but it's still way lower than historically that we need. Real estate correction, is happening, but doesn't mean that real estate's losing value. It just means it isn't growing as fast. That one's a big one. I want to repeat that one. Real estate correction, right? You hear that a lot. There is correction happening, but it doesn't mean you're going to be losing value. What it means, it's not growing as fast. That's a big point. 6 is buy for the long term, make sure it cash flows. Buy for the long term, make sure it cash flows. You won't be mad that you bought a property in 10 years. I guarantee you that. If I'm wrong, right, you can knock on my door in 10 years and you'd slap me in the face, whatever. 7, don't be over leveraged, right? Have your cash reserves. Again, if you're down to your last penny to buy a property, don't do it, right? Still save some money then, right? Do that. You don't want to be caught your pants down there. And 8, buying opportunities are here and they're coming. And because there's less competition, because everyone on this call has taken time out of their day to make sure that they can educate themselves on data, right? So use your data to your advantage and take advantage of the market while there's a lot of fear in the streets. Be greedy when there's fear. Be fearful when there's greed, right? I didn't make that up. That's what Warren Buffett says. He's a pretty cool investor, pretty cool guy, I'm sure. So, he's been around the block a few times. So those are the 8 points. So in conclusion, guys, there's a huge wealth transfer happening right now in our generation. If you don't want to have that FOMO, right, take advantage of, I think, at least one of the biggest wealth transfers in our generation. We're stacking up our cash as well, and we're ready. We're pouncing. Like, we're closing a deal, this next month, doing a bunch of refinances. Like, we're looking for deals like crazy still, and they're getting better and better. Right? They're penciling out on paper nowadays, which is awesome. And Amit, I think you had mentioned too, hey, I'm just having issues. Like, I want to do it, but I'm having issues of where do I start? How do I do it? What's the next step? Well, if you need some help there, guys, I want to help create a roadmap for you guys as well. So let's chat. I have a cool little QR code here. Audrey, if you can post a link to book a call as well with us, if you want to chat and get a roadmap, then go ahead and scan your QR code like a menu at a new restaurant now, or go ahead and go to the link on the chat, and love to chat and talk. But I hope this was informative. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death with a bunch of data and numbers, like a bunch of numbers nerds. And I hope it was fun. I love talking about this stuff. Always happy to chat more with you guys and help you guys in your journey, because, for me, at least, I wish there was something like this that helped us along our way as well. I wouldn't have made, or we, Jennie and I, wouldn't have made so many mistakes along the way. And to be honest, like, I've been telling Jennie this for a long time, but it's like, I've been waiting for the R word to happen for a long time. Like, quick story, one of the first 2 areas we were invested in was Dallas and San Antonio. Now, I could say, hey, cool, I invested in Dallas because, I saw a huge appreciation, job growth, all that stuff. Yeah, there was job growth, there was population growth, all that stuff. But actually, one of the big reasons why I invested there, and this was in 2014, I thought there was going to be a recession like in 2014 or 2016 timeframe. And why I bought there, though, is because in times of recession, the median home prices of those homes in Dallas and San Antonio, it stayed flat. I think in San Antonio was like negative 0.08% of the median home price during a recession. So it just stayed flat, right? And so we've been waiting ever since then. Like, I thought there was going to be a recession back then, and we've been waiting, to take advantage of those times, because that's when a lot of wealth is created. A lot of wealth is created during those times of fear, we'll call it. So that being said, I'm going to stop talking. I feel like I've bored you guys all to death here. Happy to answer any questions. I see there's 54 chats that I have not read yet. But yeah, happy to answer them away. So
I have a quick question. Do you guys do, you don't have to answer it, maybe it's private, I don't really know, but do you guys do LLCs for each of the properties in case there's an issue or whatever?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I'm gonna give you an answer, and you're not gonna like it, but I'm gonna say it depends, right? So it depends if it's like your first property, is your very first property. You don't need an LLC. I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. I mean, we made that same mistake. We actually created an LLC before we had any properties because we thought we were going to be cool, right? Paid $1,000, you know, got the business card. We're like, we're business owners, we're real estate investors, but we don't have any real estate yet, right? And, you know, I think that's, you can get an umbrella policy, you know, cost cheaper and cost all less, I can give you the same amount of protections. Now, as you continue to grow, yes. And nowadays, we do, right? So Alita, like, for example, every apartment complex we have, yeah, I have an LLC for that, like just that, right? And, you know, from some of our properties in Texas, I have like maybe three single family homes in one, right? So just to kind of limit the liability you can have. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony, I see your hand. So what's up, bro? How you doing, man? Good seeing you.
So brother, it's been a while.
I
Good to see
know.
you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, you earlier you had kind of like two columns, one with people should be investing and one that, you know, where people should not be investing.
Yeah.
And one of the criteria for not investing is that you don't have enough cash on hand. So those kind of people, what can they do to kind of reach to the other side, or what things can they do to become landlords?
Yeah. So, oh, Jenny, you look like you're about to talk.
Yeah, I can share my first story. And so when I first got into real estate investing, I was 22, 23 years old at that time. And what I leveraged was family home equity line of credit. And I didn't have much money to my name at all. I was broke, going to Vegas every other weekend to go party. And I'm still going to go to Vegas for my birthday bachelorette for my 30th. But for that is like, I talked to my parents and figure out they were sitting on so much equity on their house because they've built that and they got a home equity line of credit, which is an interest only product as well too. So very low rate, they had a $400,000 home equity line of credit, and they knew that real estate was a long-term investment as well too. So being able to have that buy-in from family members and friends, and we sometimes say OPM, but you have to be educated first to be able to make sure that you're leveraging and not losing other people's money. So I was already paying rent at that time. I was only paying at first $800 for a room, but then I even house hacked my room when I was renting for $400. I was like, I'm still paying for someone else's mortgage here. So I leveraged, talked to my parents, got that home equity line, got a mortgage, and rented out all the rooms, and that paid for the mortgage. But then I realized, like, okay, I'm not fronting any money, and that was able to appreciate and start growing from that way. But really educate yourself, because it's about buying a good deal that makes sense. I could have bought like a nicer house, but like a smaller house in a better area. But I bought in a decent growing area where there was 4 bedrooms, 2 baths that I can rent out each of the rooms and cover the mortgage. And I was like, okay, I had to take some sacrifices and like live with other people. And we're still living in our house, like with other people and house hacking. And we like to make it a fun time too. So that's one way to really leverage and bring other people along with the journey. And other times might be like, hey, if you don't have the capital, then find that deal. Sometimes the people with the capital, they're like, we get calls all the time from high school friends and college friends from USC. They're like, Jenny and Calvin, like, we have $50,000, $100,000, like, just go get us something and like, we'll pay you and like help us get the interest. So just through education and surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah. So Anthony, you know, sum it up. Yeah, you need some money, but it doesn't have to be your money. It could be OPM. And like Jenny said, hey, there's time, there's knowledge, or there's capital, right? You gotta have one of those 3 things. If you don't have one of those 3 things, then you gotta work on one of those 3 things, right? To be able to do some deals, right? So love it, man. And I guess a question about you guys. You guys come Sunday?
Oh, yeah, we'll try. We don't have anything planned, so yeah.
Let's go.
There's a try.
We'll get the tofu burgers ready.
Okay, all right. Well, tofu burgers. No. Beyond burgers. Come on,
Okay.
we'll bring our own.
Okay. You're fancy. I forgot you're
Don't torture me.
Yeah. All right, Toxie, what's up, man? I haven't talked to you in a while, dude. How you been?
Hey, I'm doing good. On my phone, so I didn't go on right away. I was about the first part. But good to see you. Great to see you. So my question is, I recently got pre-qualified And basically, I'm like, what do I do with it? I have so many options. This might be like a one-on-one question, but when I saw that you guys had done that Airbnb investment property, that kind of piqued my interest because that would be perfect for me to do something like that. So I'm curious, like, how do you go about finding good markets for Airbnb when you want to buy a home? Like, I've seen arbitrage, but to me, it seems like really risky to buy a home for Airbnb. What do you look for? What are the criteria, and like, how do you find these kinds of places?
Yeah, it's a great question, talk. So I think a lot of people, if you go online on YouTube, people are like, all right, well, you want to buy where there's, awesome, attractions and a lot of events, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually gonna go the opposite, man. I'm gonna say, actually, what you want to do is look at the defense side first. I always try to buy at least Airbnbs as a long-term rental that can be Airbnb-able, because you always know at the back of the day, you can go back in long-term rentals, right? And that's the safety net, because you don't know, man. You just don't know what's gonna happen with Airbnbs. Like, it's fantastic. It's the best yield you can get right now, right? But Jennie can tell you too, we Airbnb our property here in California, and we're making like $5,000 a month on 300 square feet, right? It was freaking awesome until it wasn't. Until the city said, hey, guy, here's a letter. You can't Airbnb anymore. We just changed the law. So go pound sand, and you actually owe us tax and back dues. And that was a big gut punch of the day, that day, right? So I would say is you have that backup plan. And for us, it was actually traveling nurses. We're close to a lot of hospitals, so that actually helped out a lot, and we get $3,000 now instead of 5, right? So, I look at the opposite instead, look at the defense side of it and say, all right, cool. Like, defense side does work as a long-term rental, right? If it does, great. Can I Airbnb it? Second checklist there, and then I go from there. Now,
awesome, yeah.
One thing, Toxic, I want to mention too. Sorry to cut you off there, but going back to the inflation slide, right, the CPI index. So because fuel is costing a lot of money, we've actually seen a big decline in some of our mountainous, you got to drive 3 hours away from the airport type of Airbnbs. We're actually seeing a lot better returns in our urban core ones because you don't have to drive as far to those. So that's small trend I'm seeing right now on Airbnb, is that the mountain ones are actually having less demand because of gas prices, whereas the urban ones are actually doing fine. In fact, even doing better.
Great, yeah, super helpful. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Ryan, what's up, man?
Oh, not much. Really appreciate all of you guys here, and especially all the information you guys are sharing.
Yeah.
Since you guys had talked about a little bit about the Airbnb stuff, I just wanted to say that I had bought a property thinking I was going to be able to Airbnb it, and turned out the municipality doesn't allow it whatsoever. So,
who's had that story before? I think a lot of people have had that story before.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you were saying, have that contingency in place. Thank God. I could actually run it and, generate cash flow. But had I had only done it for that purpose, I would have been absolutely screwed. Because I didn't find out till like way after, like I was literally about to start furnishing the property and everything.
Oh, wow.
So,
I think you caught it right before that then. Like 10, 20K in a hole right there.
yeah. And I was talking to the neighbor. He's like, hey, dude, what do you plan on doing with this? Oh, Airbnb. He's like, you can't do that. You're right.
Oh,
I'm
man.
Like,
Well,
no, I didn't know
for
that.
everyone too, guys. Like, talking to neighbors always helps, right? You can find out information like that and other stuff.
Yeah. But I was actually going to ask you a question. Some people had asked, do you put LLCs under every project? And I know that there is, everyone has their own strategy of doing those sort of things, but at what point for you, I mean, I don't know if like all of your level 1 research, if you guys are doing that in-house, or if you guys are actually having others do the research for you and kind of true up deals for you to go ahead and like further explore like your level 2, 3 research. Like, what is your guys' strategy with that? Is it you guys, if you're outsourcing, do you still keep it as LLC, or are you doing all your R&D and like marketing and stuff, like maybe in an S corp? Or, how are you going about just your entity structure as like your development company and education and things of that so like all of that?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, man. So, okay. So I'll try to break it down as easy as possible here. So, S corp on the Zen Coast Capital side, right? And that's kind of the investing arm for us. So so basically I'll use that kind of income from there to pay for VAs or whatever to generate leads, software programs, things like that. And then properties are all in LLC, right? So nowadays for us, like we put each property in LLC. and kind of how I look at it is actually more about like how much equity is in each LLC, right? Obviously, the apartment complex is going to have a lot of equity, so we put those in each one. Some of the single families, they don't have as much, so maybe we'll put a couple in one of them just to kind of segregate. Like, all right, I have $500,000 in equity in this one, $500,000 over here, right? I'm going to make sure that I segregate that one so it doesn't hit the other, $500,000 here, right? So, I don't know that answered your question. I think you had like 5 questions in that question, so.
Yeah, it was
Like,
definitely a
throw that in there?
loaded question. Yeah, they definitely answered my question. I mean, you pretty much utilize the S corp for everything and anything that may be outside of like the actual asset investment itself.
Right. But then you pay yourself, right, from the LLC, right?
Right.
So.
And do you guys do all of are you and your wife doing all of the like research in terms of like looking at the market and like looking at different comps, or do you have someone doing that first layer and then feeding
so
it
for
to
the
you
most
guys?
part, for the most part, we still do that. Where, I mean, for me, I like try to do where, and it's funny that you bring that up. It's something that we're working on right now. But typically, I'll get like a deal in my inbox. I'll do like a quick like evaluation on my phone, like literally on my phone calculator, and say, all right, this is like even come close to something that I would do, right? And if it doesn't, then I just move on with my life. If it does, then I'm like, all right, cool. Then it's worth a second look here and tear it out. Tier 2, like you mentioned, level 2, like you said, we are trying to build out, and Audrey here, one of my VAs is helping me with that. I'm trying to build out a template to say, all right, every deal that we come in, look at it, it has to meet these criterias. If it doesn't, toss. If it does, send it to my inbox, then I'll look at it that way. So that's kind of the next tier for us.
Awesome. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's funny you mentioned we're literally working on it right now. Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Who else, guys? What else?
Hey, Calvin, I think Talks had, I don't know how to say his name, sorry, had his hand up, but I don't know if we answered his question. Did he ask it already?
We did ask, yeah, Talks did, but
Mine's good.
You're good?
No, I'm
Okay.
good, thanks.
You good? Okay. Marianne's just volunteering people randomly now.
No, I know. I'm just gonna randomly say you. No, I'm just kidding.
She does that to me all the time, so I'm used to it.
Yeah. Shannon, I see your question in there. So buy box, right? So great question. So it depends what kind of asset type. So B-class multifamily, for example, we're looking at areas where the tract, like the neighborhood, is a medium home price of $40K and above. We want to have some kind of value add, at least $150 to $200 a door of value add on those. A C-class asset still with the B-class, we're looking at vintage 1990 and above on those. C-class, we'll go down to like the 50s. And we want actually, the really trashed out ones that are like freaking fire damage and all that stuff that we can do a heavy renovation on. Like those are our 2 buy boxes there. Airbnb, we need the cash flow, 50% cash on cash. Trying to stay in the urban core centers right now. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, that's our buy box right now.
Is it possible that you can send me that? Because I have a group of about 2,000 women that I mentor and I work with independently, and they're all over the country. And my goal is to get them into their first deals. So I could have them begin to work, and I'm coaching them on wholesaling. So I would love for them to partake in this and send you guys some deals so that they can begin to create as well.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Hey, people who needs deals here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. All right. So
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Shannon.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right. Who else? Any other questions out there? Going once, going twice. All right, y'all. Well, an amazing session tonight, guys. I hope it was valuable. Hope I didn't bore you guys to death with all my charts and numbers. Beep up. But I appreciate all y'all spending your evening with me and Jenny. And I love you guys all. Appreciate you all. And please reach out if you guys have any questions, book a call. Always happy to talk and help out. So take care, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks,
Calvin.
See you Sunday.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.